Welcome to Being Humankind with your hosts Brian, Mike, and Neely. We explore what it means to be human in a time of disconnection.
What is the most meaningful silence that you've ever experienced?
I'll tell you exactly when it was. It was January or February of 2018. I'm a Freemason, for those who don't know. And I went to a lodge in DC, and they're what's called an observant lodge, meaning that they're a little bit more reflective and a little bit more thoughtful in the way they do things. And before their meeting, they have what's called I guess you could call it like a moment of reflection. They turn all the lights out, and they just have one candle lit in the room or three candles lit in the room. And they play this kind of like Wagner type of classical music. And you just sit there for 10 to 15 minutes in silence. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience for me because my mind just went to so many different things, and I got to appreciate being in silence and having the time to reflect on it. So that was probably the first time I ever got that feeling. And since then I've definitely become a lot more contemplative and meditative, in my daily routines, especially being in a house full of family, that you don't get a break from. So those moments of silence I cherish, but I definitely like to fill those moments of silence with reflection time, I guess you could call it. It's definitely become a lot more centering part of my life. But yeah, that was probably the first time I ever had an experience like that. And I walked out of it and said, wow, that was awesome.
Do you remember, and are you willing to share one of the reflections that you had that day?
Yeah. I definitely, like I said, a lot crossed into my mind, and I did notice the transition from, let me try to be generic in my terminology. I definitely sensed that I was compartmentalizing all the extra noise that was going on in my mind. It was around 7:00, so I had just gotten off work about an hour before, and we had a meal and we were all shooting the breeze, and then it got to quiet reflection time. So I remember just divesting myself of things like, the stress at work and what I have to worry about tomorrow, and got to a point where I transitioned from being that busy human being to, okay, this is just me, and it's now, and I'm alone, and my thoughts are quiet, and this is amazing to not have all this crap running around in your brain, at least for a few minutes. And that's what I took from that experience was, wow, I can actually leave all this stuff and put it off to the side and be free of it for a little bit. And, it'll always come back and you can't escape it, but at least to be able to learn to clear your mind that way, and to at least have that small minute or two of time each day to get centered. It's amazing. I was so happy that I got to experience that and learn how to do that. And like I said, I try to incorporate that as often as possible, given the circumstances.
It's interesting, right? That the answer is within yourself and it's not something you find outside of yourself.
Well, I mean, this is, and some of the last place we ever look for the answers to anything is deep within ourselves, right? Because we just have all these outside distractions nonstop. And like I had mentioned, it really was an epiphany for me. I'm like, oh my God, I have all this crap sitting in my head all day long. Like, how do I even get a relevant thought out, And I also did notice that a lot of, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of people, we do lots of things on autopilot without forethought, whether we do our day's work for a living. You know, if my boss sees this, I don't do things on autopilot. I'm very thoughtful with him. But honestly, it's you never take enough time to think about what's inside your own mind. You just have all this extra crap and detritus that fills it up. Yeah, and I don't think we ever have enough time to devote to that. But those little brief minutes that we do get, I think we need to grab onto them and treasure them.